I mean, I think people are scared to have high expectations because every year you go into Philadelphia sports and any single asset, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, people get their hopes up and then they're not as good as you expect them to be. But I think that you can be high on this Eagles team, especially on paper. Listen, things are going to happen, injuries are going to come throughout the season, but you have to be excited about a young quarterback coming in and now having a lot of talent around him as well.
We're going to keep the positivity flowing with our next guest, part of the NFL Draft Bible Familia, now of Delmarva Sports, of course, a Philly native, checking in each and every Wednesday with the Eagle Scoop. She's Kayla Santiago, joining us here on the Football Playbook for the Cameo. Good morning, Kayla. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Hey, we're one step or one day closer to kickoff, so I am ecstatic, as are all the Eagles fans. Most of them. Some of them are scared of the expectations. They're saying, hey, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. But I'm here to say this was a playoff team last year. There's new starters littered all over the field that I consider to be upgrades. What's the problem?
I mean, I think people are scared to have high expectations because every year you go into Philadelphia sports and any single asset, whether it's basketball, baseball, or football, people get their hopes up and then they're not as good as you expect them to be. But I think that you can be high on this Eagles team, especially on paper. Listen, things are going to happen. Injuries are going to come throughout the season, but you have to be excited about a young quarterback coming in and now having a lot of talent around him as well. You talk about the days when the Eagles had Alshon Jeffrey at his best, and even when Nelson Aguilar was up and coming back in 2017 in their Super Bowl year. Now you have two really good receivers for a new young quarterback. There's just so much to be excited about.
And it's not just about what is constructed here in Philadelphia, it's also about the deconstruction of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They don't have guys like Rob Gronkowski. Rojo, Ronald Johnson was a very key backup to Leonard Fournette. He's no longer there. Chris Godwin, you heard him say yesterday, already starting the season. I don't know. I'm uncertain. Week one, I don't know. Meanwhile, you got the Packers, who can't win a postseason game that counts for anything. They lost their best receiver in Devontae Adams. Oh, by the way, the 49ers, they got a bigger question mark at quarterback than the Eagles, in my opinion. And, hey, Matthew Stafford nursing a little bit sore throwing elbow. I mean, listen, the Eagles are hungry. The Rams already been there and done that. To me, it's just that the time is ripe and they're built. I don't care how many wins it is. I don't care if it's 10. I don't care if it's 11, 12, 13. Now, home field advantage goes a long way. But my point is, this team is constructed for a postseason run.
Absolutely. And I think you look at Jalen Hurts, even a season ago, and we talked about this last week as well. A lot of people, especially myself last year, did not even expect the Eagles to make the playoffs. And the fact that Hurts was able to do that with all the injuries that were around him and all the media and everything like that, being able to even make that postseason push. And now he has a real team and it's his team, and he's able to have year two with Devontae Smith, adding the multitude of receivers that they had, adding that defense in the secondary. They haven't had, we mentioned last week as well, in years, it hasn't been this good on paper. So this is a team that's going to do even better than they did last season. And I mean, we didn't expect them to make the playoffs last year, so the expectations are high this year.
Kayla Santiago here on the Football Playbook, along with Ric Serritella, breaking it down, chopping it up each and every Wednesday. Taking you up to the noontime hour with the Sports Take guys, presented by Ocean Casino and Resorts, home for the Eagles postgame. Now, I saw something interesting that, this Lions game last year, as you know, was the turning point. They went into the matchup 2-5. Since that Lions game last year, I believe the Eagles ran the ball from weeks 8 through 17. They ran the ball a league high 353 times. Nobody was even close to running the ball that much. I think the 49ers were like at around 300 rushing attempts, but in one fewer games. So we saw the Eagles kind of increase the workload of the backfield, and they averaged, I think, 40 carries a game, which, again, they led the league in rushing. They led the league in rushing attempts. I think they averaged 194 rushing yards per game on the season. What's the ratio that we want to see with Jalen Hurts' development? Are we still running the ball 50-50? Do you want to see them air the ball out a little bit more? Do you want to see them take advantage of a weakness? And they seem to run the ball pretty well against Detroit. Is it a week-by-week game plan? What do you want to see from this Eagles offense attack?
I think it's week by week, and I think you have to go into week one realizing what you have as receivers and trying to utilize that. We all know that Jalen Hurts is still working on that passing game, and now that he has the weapons to do it, I wouldn't be surprised if they air it out in this game more, and then Nick Sirianni maybe draws it back a little bit and says, hey, let's run the ball a little bit more. That's our bread and butter. That's where we really can hammer it in and get those touchdowns and get those yards. But I think week one, not to play risky, but to go out there and say, listen, this is what we got right now. Let's test it out in real game speed and see what we have and see what we have to work on in practice. Because this year is going to be the test for Jalen Hurts to see how much he's going to tuck and run or to see how much he can actually air it out and hit those receivers and how accurate he can be. So I think that you have to at least try to throw it a little bit more than you did at the end of last season to start out this year.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Lions safeties being vulnerable. I hope they take a couple deep shots down the field. Even if they don't complete them, keep the defense honest. I think Goddard and Brown, they're going to work the underneath game all season long. Get him the ball in the hands. Let A.J. Brown go to work yards after the catch. Let Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins take a couple deep shots downfield. Let me ask you about the wide receiver position because the depth chart came out yesterday. They're still kind of fine-tuning that 53-man roster, but they have not yet elevated a wide receiver 5 since the trade of Jalen Reagor. We saw Quez Watkins named temporarily. I don't know, but as of the depth chart yesterday, Quez Watkins named the return guy. Does that mean Deion Kane gets the call up from the practice squad over Devin Allen or Britton Covey? Put your GM cap on. Who's your number 5 wide receiver for this Lions matchup?
I think it's tough. I really do like Devin Allen, and I think that he can be utilized in this. I think Quez Watkins is also going to be really interesting. You talk about that guy coming in who showed that speed last year. What can he be able to do? Obviously, he's going to be in that game with them. But I really like Allen, and I think that he can make an impact. But it's going to be interesting to see because we talked about Jalen Reagor a little bit last week, and he was not needed to be that number 1 guy this year. So whoever is going to come up from this practice squad is probably not going to get that many touches, is probably not going to see the ball a lot, but they're going to put him to the test and see what he can do. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I think they have to bring him up and see what he can do. And then you go into week 2, week 3, week 4, and really try to solidify who you want as that number 5 spot.
Yeah, I like Devin Allen. I don't know if he's ready just yet, but I think before it's all said and done, he's going to have a momentum-changing play. I'll just say that. Whether that's a kick return or you saw it in the preseason with the 55-yard bomb. And especially on special teams, this guy can make an impact. You know, they say a left-footed punter is good for 1 victory a year because of the rotation of the ball is different than a right-footed punter, and eventually you're going to get a muffed punt, change of possession, switch of field, momentum turnover. I think Devin Allen is a 1-game X factor, even if he doesn't play a lot, because he can make a big play that swings the pendulum and changes the momentum of the game. So Devin Allen, to me, I think it's great that he's back on the practice squad. I'm looking for big things out of him. Okay. Let's turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball because they added a lot of new starters, James Bradbury being one of them, Hassan Reddick being another, Kaiser White, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They're all starting.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Davis, though, is kind of more of a hybrid role or a luxury role or a situational role, we'll call it, because I'm not sure he'll be out there on third downs or in pass rush situations just yet. I know that's what he's basically worked on for the past 7 months to try to improve and get better at. But for the week 1 purposes, he's probably going to be in there primarily on first and second down. How frequently do you put him in there? Do you take Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrove off the field? How do you kind of work this D-line rotation?
I think they're going to be experimental, but I think it's going to be tough because I think the one thing the Lions do has is a decent offensive line. So I think they're going to try to rotate him a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe only see him in a quarter or two and then just keep that rotation going between them. I would like to see him get in a little bit more in week one, test out what you have. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing with this Eagles team this year. For the first time, it's in Jalen Hurts' career, at least, they have a very complete team on both sides of the ball. So you have to put guys in and test them out. I know it's not preseason and I know it's not the practice squad. I get that it's week one and it is a real game. But at the same time, this is game one of a super long season. If injuries happen, you also need to see guys that can step up and really take that role. So I think that's what they're going to do, at least for the game against the Lions.
Well, you mentioned injuries, and I hate to say it, it just, when you bring up Miles Sanders, it's almost like when, not if he gets injured, at some point he's going to be dinged up. Has Kenneth Gainwell done enough to be elevated as the starting running back should Miles Sanders go down? Because last year it seemed like Boston Scott, who was the third running back, would leapfrog Gainwell. Gainwell would kind of remain in the backup. To me, I think Gainwell has a big upside. I know his preseason and training camp didn't exactly tell that story, but I feel like this guy has kind of been not really discussed as a factor in the offense. And at the end of the day, I think he might even have more total yards when we get to the playoff time than Miles Sanders. How do you kind of see the backfield by committee approach playing out?
I am a really big fan of Kenny Gainwell because I was super excited what he did last year. I think he just had so much promise in what he showed, the little glimpse, the little pops of power, and the speed that he's able to put his head down and just completely gain yards. I think that he, at the end of the day, as you mentioned before, will play more than Miles Sanders just because of the injury history than Sanders. And I think you have to get ready to groom him to be that number one back if Sanders goes down for a long period of time. We know that Jalen Hurts can tuck and run and get some yards, but who's that guy that he's going to be able to rely on and hand over the ball and open up the offense and get the extra yards when they're needed? I've really liked Gainwell, and I think that he's going to just take a step up this season.
All right, fair enough. I'm with you on that. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that as well. Also, for the Lions, I think they're going to be running the ball a lot. Did you catch any of this Hard Knocks at all? I mean, it made for some good TV, but I'm just not buying in. To me, I almost feel like Dan Campbell has almost exposed himself now, because it's like, if it doesn't work, you got to ask yourself, like, is this a joke? Is this guy just a glorified cheerleader? I hate to say it, but like, at some point, what are they going in year 3? At some point, the team has to start winning games. What do you make of this Lions squad?
I think that, not that they would be dumb to throw the ball, but if you look at the Eagles secondary on paper right now, you're taking one too many chances if you air it out a lot. I think their safest bet right now is to run the ball and try and get some yards. Of course, they're going to mix things up. That's just the game of football. But the Eagles secondary, as we mentioned before, it's one of the best on paper in a really long time, and they're going to make plays. I mean, they're going to do what they need to do, and game one is perfect for them to figure out what they can do very well and what they can't, especially against a Lions team who last year struggled with the accuracy of throwing the ball. So now you're looking at these corners, you're looking at the safeties, and you're saying, my, oh my, I do not want to air the ball anywhere near them. I do not want to give them a chance to create a turnover. So I think the Lions are going to be very run heavy in week one. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the defensive line can keep up with that. As we mentioned, how many rotations they really use, how much we'll see Jordan Davis as well. What are the Eagles defense going to do, and those linebackers to be able to come in and stop that run game? And I think that's where they'll be put to the test.
Chopping it up, breaking it down with Kayla Santiago, Delmarva Sports here on the Football Playbook. Ric Serritella here with you today, September 7th, 2022. It's prediction time. The line really hasn't moved much over the last several months, actually, even despite of all these additions and ads and preseason hype, the hoopla, everything else. It's still sitting pretty at like 3.5, 4 points. We know the Eagles blew them out of the water last year. Is this year going to be a little bit closer? Is there an upset brewing in the works? Where are we leaning here, Kayla?
For the Eagles, I was actually right on my prediction last year that they went 9-8, and I thought that they were going to pick it up towards the end of the season. Now, I think their schedule's a little bit tougher, and there are some games that you look at, especially later in the year. Of course, those divisional matchups will always matter. But I think the Eagles can be a 10 or an 11 win team this year. And I say that because I think they're only going to get better. I think week one, looking in, a lot of fans might look at Jalen Hurts and be like, he missed passes, he missed Devontae Smith, the receivers weren't running the right routes. But as time goes on, you look into week 4, week 5, I think that's going to be super crisp that they can all stay healthy. So I'm excited to see what they can do and how accurate Jalen Hurts can get. I'm not saying by any means he might be the best NFC East quarterback. He might be able to get there. Of course, Dak Prescott on the Cowboys, unfortunately, is still very, very good. But I think they're a 10 or 11 win team this year, and I'm going to stick to that prediction. Last year I was right, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this year I will be too, and they can get even better and maybe some home field advantage.
Yeah, I'm hammering the over 9.5 wins. I said it yesterday. If this team doesn't win double-digit games, somebody's got to go.
Oh, yeah. Especially because last year they won 9 games. So you look at last year, Jalen Hurts' first season as being that starter, Ric Sirianni's first year of being the head coach. If you can't get over 9, unless something happens, if Hurts goes down for the year or the receivers go down, if anything happens like that, then okay, you look at it differently. But as this team is lined up right now, there's no excuse for them to not get double-digit wins.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to let you go. Tell the people at home what you got going on over there at Delmarva Sports. What's going on this week? I saw you at the UFC, I think, last weekend.
Yeah, we had an MMA fight last weekend, which was really exciting. One of our fighters actually from back in October will be fighting in the Daniel Cormier series. And then if he wins that, he'll be going to the UFC. So we will be having interviews with him. We also have a documentary coming out. One of our teams made it to the Little League World Series championship game, so we will be airing that. And then we got Thursday night and Friday night football coming up. So I can't wait. We got some crucial rival matchups. The high school season is here. The NFL season is here. It's football all around. Super exciting.
Buckle up. It's a double chin strap affair. Make sure you go follow her, Kayla_Santiago1. Right?
Yes, on Twitter.
All right, Kayla. I'm sure we'll be chatting both off and on the air. We look forward to having you back next week.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Go Birds. Thank you.